crazy.
Finally, this hour, a closer look at Kansas, a vote that will decide the fate of abortion after the overturning of Roe v. Wade. Joining us now, founder and CEO of All In Together, Lauren Leader, and senior reporter for Vice News, Carter Sherman. She recently traveled to Kansas to hear from advocates on both sides of the issue ahead of tomorrow's vote. And I guess we should start there. How did that go, Carter?
Well, it really struck me that everybody I talked to in Kansas knew about the vote and they knew how they were going to vote on it. But many folks were really worried about speaking openly about their opinions. There's been a long history of anti-abortion extremism in Kansas, and people are afraid that they're going to be attacked if they're open about the fact that they support abortion rights. I talked to one woman who wouldn't even put up a yard sign because she's worried that it could make her 4-year-old daughter a target.
My Lord. My Lord. And Lauren Leader, among the many things you do at All In Together is sort of take up the pulse of how women are feeling about this and what they plan to do. What are you hearing?
Well, there's only been one major poll out of Kansas, and it's very close. But there's some really interesting indicators because a lot of the country is looking at Kansas as a bellwether for how voters are going to react to the Dobbs decision. In just the 2 weeks after the Dobbs decision, voter registration in the state of Kansas surged by 1,000%. 1,000%. And so nobody expects this to be a close vote, but we are seeing record early turnout at the polls in Kansas. And I think it is a real question. You have this state where you have a Democratic governor, but a Republican supermajority in the state legislature. And I think there's a lot of independent voters in Kansas who swung for the Democratic governor in the last election. We'll see where they turn out. It's a big deal to change your state constitution. They've made this amendment as confusing as possible for voters. A yes vote is a vote to change the Constitution. A no vote is to leave it as is, which protects abortion rights. But I think we could see some really interesting electoral dynamics.
So, Carter, you said that in your reporting, there are people there who would be afraid to speak publicly about their positions. But certainly in there, maybe not to a reporter, but certainly it seems like people among neighbors would know where each other stand. Is this a passionate debate, of course. Did you find this is pitting neighbor against neighbor, friend against friend in Kansas?
Absolutely. And that is actually part of it, is they wouldn't talk to their neighbors about how they vote. Some people were putting up yard signs. I talked to one man who does support amending the Constitution. He does want to not have further abortion restrictions he was worried. He wants to amend the Constitution, and he does support more abortion restrictions. And he said that he has had 3 of his yard signs yanked out of his lawn because he thinks his neighbors are taking them.
Lauren Leader, your final thoughts on this, and also what you think Democrats will be able to get through that will actually be helpful to women, especially leading up to the midterms, to really perhaps excite Democratic women toward the midterms, when I think women are feeling pretty dejected, almost close to giving up at this point.
Well, women who support abortion rights, that's not an option, because right now what Dobbs has done, it has sent this sort of electoral chaos back to every state in the country. And our future depends on our turning out at the polls. And I think women, what we're seeing from poll after poll is women understand this. We'll see if it passes in the state of Kansas. It is a bellwether in some ways. But let's see what happens in November. I think we're going to see a pretty fired up electorate. And I think the Dobbs decision rewrites American politics for years to come.
Let's see what happens. Founder and CEO of All In Together, Lauren Leader, and senior reporter for Vice News, Carter Sherman. Thank you both very much for being on this morning.